Right, I think some will remember, well, some have even asked about it actually, this Honda XL 350 that I began working on. And I suppose there must be some people that thought, well, the trail went a bit cold, that just sort of disappeared when the engine was going to be stripped down. Anyway, it's back together now, and just to sort of recap, it was smoking very, very heavily. So heavily it made that oily mess there on the back of the number plate, thanks to what it was spitting out through the exhaust between droplets of oil and thick smoke. And when I rode it before I began work on it, I actually overtook a car, and then I felt awful because I don't think whoever was driving the car could see much. But I took it all apart, the top end, and it looked like there was a new piston and rings in there, but the cylinder bore, although unworn, there was a patch just below halfway up the stroke, I would say, that was very pitted. Probably about the area of, I don't know, maybe a couple of your fingernails or something. And it was suspected that the valve guide oil seals might have been to blame because the backs of the inlet valves were wet and oily and a bit gooey. But when I saw the cylinder bore, I didn't want to rebuild the engine and fit new valve guide seals and then find out it still smoked thanks to the cylinder bore. So what we did, and seeing as there was a new piston and rings in there, was I got the cylinder relinered, and they've done a lovely job of it, because what they've actually done is they bored it out oversize, obviously, to accept the liner, but they bored it not all the way through. They stopped about to 5 or 6 millimeters from the bottom to leave a ledge so that the liner could be pressed in and come to a stop against the ledge right at the bottom of the liner, you know, out the way of the piston rings and the piston working and whatever. And then obviously the top of the liner then was probably left a thou or two proud of where the old one would have finished, pressed inside the old one. So we just got a little bit more crush on a head gasket that I had to reuse because we couldn't get any apparently. And luckily when I stripped the engine, the base gasket remained clean and intact and all stuck to the top of the crankcase, and the cylinder head gasket also came apart in pretty good condition. So I just coated the underside of the cylinder barrel, the joint face, with some well seal and put it back onto the original base gasket, or the last base gasket that was fitted. I don't know if it's the original. The head gasket I coated both sides in well seal, and I'm hoping that they're going to hold anyway. So we got basically a new cylinder bore, and to all intents and purposes a new piston and rings, because they were like brand new. I think someone had fitted them and then found it still smoked and gave up on it perhaps. We've got new valve guide seals. I've cleaned the valves up, polished them, and the valve guides are good. Ground the valves in to seat them, and obviously rebuilt the top end. I had this casing off here to get at the centrifugal oil filter. That was actually very clean. Someone had obviously cleaned that out recently. And on the other side of the engine, I had this lot off here while the top end was off, and I fitted a new cam chain and a new tensioner blade. So it should be more or less like new on all the you know, the main bearings. The cranks turned freely and there was no roughness or play that I could detect, and the big end felt good. So shall we have a try and see if it starts up, and if it does, have a look and see if it smokes. I put the camera down here, hopefully you have a reasonable view of what's going on there, and I'll try and get it going. I don't even actually know for sure which is on or which is reserve. Try there. I might give it a good few kicks and get nothing. If so, I'll switch the back round. Oh, that's get on. But with the amount it was smoking previously, there could well be a lot of oily goo in that exhaust. Well, I really hope that this has fixed it, because I'm going to be rather stumped if it hasn't. I'm going to let it run for a few more minutes and see what happens, and then I'll probably take it for a run up the road, do a couple of careful miles on it and see how it is after that. Smoking a poor old cat out there, poor old boy. I'll take it up and down the lane anyway to start with, and see if that makes any impression on it. I hope that clears though. I really can't see why it's doing that now, unless there's a huge residue left in the exhaust. Fingers crossed that might be all it is.